very shadowy. I mean, it doesn't have, it's pretty flat, the lighting on this. It's pretty straight on, and there's no dramatic shadows, but let's see what we can extract from this. So I'll go to Window, and I'll go to Channels with just the stairs layer showing. If we look at the channels of this image, this is red, this is blue. I feel like the blue has the best contrast. You see that? Look at these. Look at which one do you think has the best contrast, like lights to darks? Best differentiation, lights to darks. I'm getting blue. Okay. So I will duplicate the blue channel and go back to the RGB channel. So now I'm actually going to hide all the image and just select the blue channel. And go to Levels, Command L, Levels, Adjust. And see what happens if I just start compressing the highlight and the shadow information. I'm compressing it, which is I'm trying to find how to see more shadow and highlights. Exaggerating is what the word I was searching for there in that silent moment. Exaggerating. So I'm exaggerating the highlights and the shadows. So some of what's happening here is really not on the front of the stairs. Nevertheless, let's click OK. And I'm going to take this blue copy and select all, Command A, and copy it, Command C. And then go back to the RGB layer. Now, already, after just staring at that, this image looks so much more flat. And now we'll go back to the layers, where you have everything nicely separated onto its own piece. And I will put all of them on and click on the topmost one. And then I will paste this image right on top of it. This is still in the experimental phase. So I select this layer and I tell it to go to Multiply. Okay. And so what starts to really show up here is much more of the grit, the grittiness. If I lower the opacity of this and then kind of toggle between turning this on and turning it off, one thing it definitely does is it brings a lot more power to the scene overall. The dark and the depth in the banisters and in the edges of the staircase are definitely emphasized. Okay? So now what I want to see is, and what I want to avoid is some of this weird extra highlighty content that I'm getting wherever we have the stair wrap underneath it. It's not, it has the artwork from what station? Has the station names. That's what I'm trying to say. It has the station names, which is not really going to help us so much. But wow, it does definitely add some nice oomph to this image. Okay, so now the question is, if I go to this layer and just for safekeeping, I'm going to duplicate it. So in case I hate what I do, I have a spare left over, and go to the topmost version and zoom in. Zooming into all of this content and making sure I'm hiding the background layer, because that's really is influencing how I'm seeing this and going back to normal. And there. Now, ugh. Crazy fingers today. 0, 0. Try it again, Abigail. Select, and I want this set to 100. My fingers are shaky today. There we go. So now, if you notice here, this texture-y beautiful gritty stuff. It's much more visible on the darker stairs, and I think that with a little bit of help, we can quickly mask this, paint this away. So here's what I'm suggesting. This is a tool I don't get to use that often, but it will definitely come in handy here. It is underneath the set of healing brush tools, and it's this one called the patch tool. If you never use this, this is probably one of the best times that you can use it. It's a good idea when you start with the patch tool to do in a small area. Because what I want to do with this area is once I've selected, okay, I want to patch that. Like maybe you like those rivets, maybe you would keep that, but you kind of slide over and let go. Or slide to the other direction and let go. Or slide to another place in the image and let go. Now, it does not have the rivets anymore. So select, click, slide, let go. Pretty trippy, huh? It took me a while to get good at it because sometimes the area that you think you should pick for it, you need something darker. Sometimes you need something lighter. I would encourage you to experiment with this tool. Experimentation will get you far. So here, luckily for us, is we have this. We'll want to go up a little higher maybe to avoid that highlight that's starting to show up. Deselect. So here for this weird highlight stuff that I'm not happy about, am I being picky? Or am I correct, do you think, to be concerned about that? I think I'm correct to be concerned about it. So I'm going to go to this one. This is called the burn tool. In photography, what that actually is a piece of cardboard or something that you design that has a hole in it, and you hold it up underneath the light of the enlarger to create a shadow on your print so some of it can get darker and the rest of it doesn't. It gets exposed more or burns. Sometimes you use your hand to block something away. That's called dodge. It creates a shadow on the table or it creates a negative shadow on the surface. So here what we take is this thing called the burn, and we're going to burn in the highlights because it's starting to gain highlights here. So I'll choose highlights and I want it to burn there. Is that deselected? Doesn't feel very burny because it's only 33%. Let's bring it up to 100. Not getting a lot of action there. How about midtones? See, now all of a sudden, look, that's getting darker. I think that looks more realistic. It seems on the projector, honestly, to look really flat and kind of smoky, and I'm not seeing that here. It's that weird smoky situation. I'm not seeing that here. Should I turn it around, or do you believe me? It's not smoky. You should come up and see this because it's curious how different that looks. I should also tell you that when you're looking on these projector screens, a TV projector has far fewer colors than a monitor does or printing does. This is, while convenient, not very true color-wise. So it looks way better here than it does up there. So I would continue to do that. I could also use, our friend, the clone tool, right? And I might get less of this weirdness because you could also do this up here and clone here. So now that ghosty stuff is pretty much gone. And I would go through each and every stair here and do that, trying to pick carefully and with loving care what areas to clone away, what areas to patch, and what's going to be the fastest way to do it. It might turn out to actually be the fastest way to select some of it here. I mean, at some point you get, even though it's fun and exciting, at some point you kind of get tired of patching your stuff or cloning your stuff. So it might be faster to patch first and then clone second. Okay, so let's look at that one stair. And I'll put this back onto multiply. And I'll turn on the layers again. I don't know if you've noticed this, but in Photoshop, sometimes the way things are actually stacked in the Photoshop default natural way is the opposite to the way you think. Because this file is like a perfect example. This happens to me all the time. This is actually visually the top element of the stairs, but it's, sorry, the bottom element of the stairs, but it's really the top layer in my design work. That bothers me. That's bothersome to me. So I tend to do things like, move this down. So now that's in the right place, and move them all around. I'll just turn them on in this case. Okay. All right, so now if I'm looking at my content, my multiply layer is really dark. I'll bring it way back. And it also might be a good idea to select all of these, and I'm going to select the top strip and shift select the bottom strip. And then I'm going to go over to the group, creates new group or folder icon, and click on it, and it puts them all into the folder at once. Should I tell you that again?
And can you undo that?
Yes,
when you get done working?
No, you can undo it right now. You could undo it by hand undoing it, but not with a Command Z, right? You'd have to hand select them all, pull them out of the folder. All right, so what that was click, scroll, icon, click. So now I can hide and show those all at once. I can select this layer, and instead of multiply, what if I use overlay? Hide and show. So probably still seeing more of that than I want to see. Bring it down, and or mask it down in certain areas. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to hide and show it again. It's definitely giving it a bump, right? It's giving it a bump. However, if I go to the group and I do click, shift click, and I do merge layers, I now have one element for all of the graphic design portion of this piece, which also means that I can do select, load selection, and I get this that I could apply to, on my overlay layer, a layer mask. You follow? So basically, if I do Command I, I'm inverting the layer mask, and it's only applying the overlay stair contrast to everything but these panels of color. Do you follow me? If we look at and I want to select that again. I'm going to go select, load selection. Okay. And I'm going to create a new layer. And I'm going to fill Command. I can see it's actually selected opposite of what I want. So I'm going to select inverse. That's just the stairs now. Are you with me? And I'm going to fill this a little bit more randomly, but really not randomly. I'm going to fill it first with a medium gray, a lighter medium gray. Option, fill, and then I'm going to go to my lasso tool, holding the Option key to unselect half of what is selected. Okay? And now Command L, and see if I can make that darker. See where I'm going with this? Command D to deselect. Turn that on to overlay, reading, overlay, or multiply, make it lighter, bring more contrast into it, Command L, and I'm creating a lighting effect on half of it. It doesn't seem very dramatic. I'm going to come back to this again and put it back up to 100%. Command L, and I want to make this more dramatic. Right? More contrast. Remember what I was saying before? More dramatic, exaggerated. Now it's more exaggerated. The two tonalities are further apart now than they were before. I'll go with that. So now, that seems like it's doing like nothing compared to this one. Let's bring this up to a little, something greater and turn on our artwork, which, you know, now looks pretty dark, right? And again here, this wants to be, but you can see the shadow happening, right? And then I think it's starting to look a little more real. And here, overlay, let's just turn it to off a second. Turn this off a second. Turn it on, off, select, check, check. All right, so that's how it was before. Put this on, select it, turn it to overlay. So you can see all the variations I'm getting in this. Now, with this one, I'm just going to do one thing more here. Check this out. I'm going to go Filter, Blur, and put a slight Gaussian blur on it. So now the shadow is more soft edge. I hope that you're starting to see the possibilities here. Okay. In addition, on this same layer, we could still add a layer mask. And on this layer mask, taking a brush, a large brush, and lowering the opacity, and just lightening it up. What am I doing? Silly head. Command I. There we go. Painting with white here. So this side's getting lighter. See, it's getting lighter here. And now more is showing. So it's largely amount of play. Make these lighter or darker depending on your desires. There. Does that look more real now to you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. So this did end up being something we needed, which was the stairs contrast layer. And using all the parts that we already had in our artwork, by just adding this sort of dim highlight shadow thing, before and after, right? After. Exciting. All right. That was a good one, huh? All right. You're welcome.
Can you send it to me?
Of course. Stop.